The entertainment industry is no stranger at all to cowboy movies and video games. Going back to the very early 1900s, we get movies like The Great Train Robbery, which a lot of people would say pioneered this genre. If you fast forward to the 60s, 70s, maybe even a little bit before then, we start to get cowboy video games. Fast forward to the very early 2000s, specifically in 2004, we get a game called Red Dead Revolver. While this game wasn't the first of its kind, it definitely is a game that kind of laid the brick down for what these games could eventually be. Red Dead Revolver was set in the 1880s during the American frontier. The single-player story followed bounty hunter Red Harlow's quest for revenge after the murder of his parents. So Red Dead Revolver followed that typical cowboy story where somebody does the main character wrong and he is set out to pretty much get his revenge. You would see this kind of plot in a lot of movies to come and a lot of video games to come. It's just a story that works. While this game had really interesting and fun characters, really good gameplay for the time, and some great music, it lacked one thing, and that was open world. So Red Dead Revolver didn't have an open world. There was a little town in between the levels that you can kind of walk around and interact and talk to various NPCs, even buy a few little items here and there like the deed to a saloon, but there wasn't really any exploration to do. The missions were pretty linear. It would drop you into a sort of arena, you would kill all the enemies in there, and you would eventually have a boss fight. Red Dead Revolver came out in 2004, so this was kind of like right in that mix of when open world games were starting to become a thing, specifically the Grand Theft Auto series. So while this game did lack in the open world exploration category, it was still a fun game, and it definitely has the stamp of being a certified classic. Well, sometimes what happens in the entertainment industry, music, video games, movies, sometimes two products will release in the same time, and sometimes one of them will get casted into the shadow of the more successful one. This is why you don't see a lot of big titles in video games dropping at the same day or even the same week. A lot of people don't want to buy two video games at the same time, and that might be the decision that ultimately leads to you not trying that other one. Well, unfortunately, this kind of situation happened in 2005 with Neversoft's Gun. So Red Dead Revolver and Gun have a lot of similarities. A pretty similar story, they have pretty similar gameplay, but there's one thing that Gun does differently, and that is open world. This was when open world games were really starting to come out and change the game. Gun is a 2005 Western-themed action-adventure game that was developed by Neversoft and published by Activision for the PlayStation 2, Xbox, GameCube, Microsoft Windows, and Xbox 360 as a launch title. The PSP even got a version about a year later called Gun Showdown, and this version featured new missions, a multiplayer, and some other additions that weren't available in the base console versions. The thing that really set Gun apart from Red Dead Revolver was that this game kind of had an action role-playing sort of environment. So while we are able to do main missions, we are also able to do a bunch of other things, including side missions. We were able to control Colton White from a third-person perspective. Side missions were able to improve player stats, and players were even able to purchase various upgrades using money obtained from these optional activities and even by mining gold veins. While you're traveling from town to town in this open world, bandit attacks are pretty frequent and players must either escape or defend themselves. The players are able to hunt and kill different animals like horses, buffalo, even stray dogs. The cool thing about this game was that it kind of had this town patience meter, which is kind of like a morale meter. So you can either cause mayhem within your own communities and attract attention from the lawmakers, or you can kind of go that other route and be more of a good cowboy. But you have to be careful, because if the town patience meter goes down, which is every time a civilian is killed, then a showdown happens between the player and the locals. There are also several different mini games that you can do in Gun, which include side missions, poker tournaments, cattle herding, law enforcement missions, time trials, and even bounty hunting. So the foundation of this game, the open world, what are we able to do? How are we going to defend ourselves as a cowboy? Of course, the players are able to wield revolvers and switch between rifles, shotguns, various explosives, and bow and arrows. Different types of arrows as well, like flaming and explosives. And throwing knives were actually only available in the PSP version Gun Showdown. After you attack and kill enemies, we get a quick draw gauge, which when activated slows down time, sort of like a bullet time, and it gives you the option and the chance to take on a significant number of enemies in a short duration. The player is also able to switch from a first person to a third person perspective with certain weapons. We get 2 different explosives, dynamite and whiskey bombs, and landmines were available, but they were only available on Gun Showdown. Of course, we get guns, but we also get melee combat. We get a Bowie knife, tomahawk, and even a cavalry saber. Another fun feature that this game had was we were able to use enemies as a human shield. This game was pretty brutal for the time. It had limbs blowing off of people and heads were popping off. You were even able to scalp enemies with a scalping knife. So this game had some brutality to it. While the graphics weren't that crazy, of course, by today's standards, it's crazy that limbs were blowing off and you were able to also scalp somebody. So of course, this is a cowboy game. There's going to be lots of shooting, a lot of explosives going on, but we're actually able to approach missions sometimes using a stealth tactic. A couple missions actually heavily encourage using a stealth approach. To accomplish this, we're able to use bows, melees, and like I said, on the PSP version, even throwing knives. There's even horseback combat, which is featured and is also a very important aspect of the game. There's a lot of fast-paced chases, and players can even shoot while they are on horseback. Not only shoot while you're on horseback, but you are actually able to even use melee combat when you are in a close quarters sort of situation. You can even trample and run over enemies with your horse. Gun had quite a bit of options for how you wanted to approach things. Did you want to go the loud route? Did you want to go the sneaky route? Or did you just want to run somebody over with your horse? So I don't want to say that Gun was the most innovative game in the world. It was the game that changed everything, but it definitely built on the foundation that was already set by all these previous great cowboy games, and it really made its own identity, and it really took it a step further and set the bar even higher. Unfortunately, this game was met with a boycott from the Association for American Indian Development. They were claiming that it contains derogatory, harmful, and inaccurate depictions of American Indians. Of course, Activision did not condone or advocate any of these claims. They claimed that Gun was designed to reflect the harshness of life on the American frontier at that time. It was not Activision's intention to offend any race or ethnic group with Gun, and they sincerely apologize to anybody that may have been offended by the game's depiction of historical events, which may have been conveyed not only through video games, but through films, television programming, books, and other media. And as you guys may know already, we have never received a sequel to the 2005 Gun. This was pretty much due to not low sales, but just it wasn't blockbuster level of sales to where they undeniably had to make a second one. It just didn't really perform as great as it should have in order to receive a sequel. And like I said, it was definitely 100% overshadowed by Rockstar's Red Dead Revolver, which is really, truly a shame. I mean, this game was an absolute labor of love. To be able to make something like this at the time, the environment with the horse AI, with the horse combat, every single thing they did with this game was huge, and I don't think it is appreciated enough, but I do think the people that have experienced this game know exactly what I'm talking about. So while Gun is far, far behind us, and bigger titles like Red Dead Redemption have come out since then and really set the bar even higher, I will not forget what this game did and what it was at the time. So while Gun is far behind us and will never get a revival, I will never forget this game, and hopefully today I was able to shed the light on the masterpiece that was 2005's Gun.